It was a quiet night in a small town. The streets were empty, the lamps glowing faintly in the misty air. Most people were already asleep, but inside one small house at the edge of the town, a man sat alone. His name was Daniel. He lived a simple life, reading books, fixing things, and keeping to himself. That night, Daniel was sitting by the window drinking tea when he suddenly heard something unusual. At first, it sounded like the wind against the door, but then he realized it was not the wind. It was knocking, slow, weak, and desperate. Daniel frowned. Who could be here at this hour? Nobody visited him this late. The town was quiet, and strangers rarely came by. He put down his cup and listened again. Knock, knock. This time, the sound was even weaker, almost as if the person had no strength left. Daniel stood up carefully, his heart beating faster. He walked to the door and pressed his ear against it. On the other side, he heard a faint sound, a whisper, a voice that did not sound normal. Help. Daniel froze. The voice was soft, almost broken, but there was something strange in it, something not fully human. He hesitated. Part of him wanted to ignore it, lock the door and stay safe inside. But another part of him, the part that could not ignore suffering, pushed him forward. Slowly, he unlocked the door and pulled it open. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A woman was lying on the ground, half-conscious, her body trembling. But she was no ordinary woman. Her skin was pale but covered with faint glowing lines, like patterns of light running across her arms and neck. Her hair shimmered as if it reflected more than just the dim streetlight. Her eyes, half open, glowed faintly like distant stars. Daniel's first instinct was fear. Was she dangerous? Was she even human? But then he noticed something else. She was shivering. Her lips were dry. Her stomach growled with hunger. She looked weak, not strong. Helpless, not dangerous. Before he could think further, she whispered again. Her voice cracked, fragile like glass. Hungry. Daniel's chest tightened. Whoever, or whatever, she was, she needed help. He bent down, sliding his arms under her small frame. She was lighter than he expected, as if she carried no weight. Carefully, he lifted her and carried her inside. The moment he closed the door, he felt the air change. It was as if he had crossed a line, stepped into something much larger than himself. He placed her on the couch. For a moment, he just stared. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Beautiful, yes, but in a strange, unearthly way. He noticed faint marks on her skin, almost like burns, as if she had been hurt before arriving here. Daniel hurried to the kitchen, poured water into a glass, and brought it back. Gently, he lifted her head and placed the glass near her lips. She sipped slowly, as if every drop gave her strength. Then she let out a small sound. A soft sigh. Her glowing eyes opened wider now. For the first time, she looked directly at him. Daniel's heart skipped. There was something in her eyes, fear, confusion, but also hope. She tried to speak again. You... help. Me? She asked, her accent heavy, her words broken. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes, you're safe here. She closed her eyes again, whispering a single word. Safe. As she drifted back into sleep, Daniel sat in the chair beside her. His thoughts were racing. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why had she collapsed at his door? He looked at her glowing skin, her strange patterns of light, and knew one thing for sure. She was not from here. Not from this town. Not even from this world. Outside, the wind blew softly, but Daniel felt something else in the air. Something he could not explain. It was as if the night itself was holding its breath. He glanced once more at the sleeping figure on his couch. He had opened the door to a stranger. But this stranger was no ordinary visitor, and somehow deep inside he knew this night would change his life forever. The morning light crept through the curtains, painting soft lines across Daniel's living room. For a moment, everything felt normal. The kettle hummed in the kitchen, the smell of bread filled the air, and the small house was quiet. But then Daniel remembered. He wasn't alone. His eyes moved to the couch. She was still there. The strange woman from last night, the alien. Her body was curled slightly, her skin glowing faintly as if the patterns of light were alive, breathing with her. Daniel stood in silence, unsure what to do. Part of him hoped she would wake and explain everything. Another part of him feared what would happen when she did. Then, as if she heard his thoughts, her eyes flickered open. Two glowing orbs, uncertain but sharp. She blinked at the ceiling first, then slowly turned her gaze to him. Daniel swallowed. "Good morning. If you understand that." She stared, her lips parting slightly. No words came at first, only silence. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He decided to try again. He stepped forward and placed a plate of bread on the table beside her. He poured some water into a cup and held it out. Her glowing eyes shifted to the food. For a second, she did not move. Then, with slow trembling hands, she reached for the bread. Her fingers brushed his, light as air. She pulled back quickly, almost afraid to touch him. But the hunger inside her won. She bit into the bread like someone who had not eaten for days. Daniel watched in awe. She ate carefully, almost respectfully, as though every crumb mattered. The silence between them was heavy, but it was not uncomfortable. It was filled with something else, curiosity. Finally, she looked up. Her voice was soft, broken, but clear enough. "You help me." The sound startled him. Last night he thought he had imagined her speaking. But no, she could talk. Not well, not fully, but enough. Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, you were at my door. You were hurt, hungry." She blinked, trying to process his words. Then she pointed at herself. "Lyra." Daniel tilted his head. "Lyra, your name?" She nodded once. "Lyra." For the first time, Daniel smiled. "I'm Daniel," she repeated softly as if testing the sound. "Dan L." The way she said it, broken but gentle, made him feel something strange. It was as if his own name suddenly carried more meaning. He wanted to ask her many things. Where are you from? Why are you here? Who hurt you? But looking at her fragile state, he held back. She needed comfort, not interrogation. Lyra drank the water slowly, then closed her eyes as if listening to something far away. When she opened them again, she spoke with effort. "Not safe. Me. Hunted." Daniel stiffened. "Hunted? By who?" Her glowing eyes darted toward the window as if afraid the very air carried ears. She shook her head, struggling with words. "Bad men, bad people, want me." Daniel felt a chill run through him. Whoever she wasn't just lost or wandering. She was running from something dangerous. But before he could ask more, she coughed, weak and sharp. Daniel rushed to her side, placing a hand on her back, helping her sit up. She trembled, then whispered in a voice heavy with pain, "No, leave me. Danger for you." Daniel frowned. "I can't just leave you. You knocked on my door. You asked for help. That makes it my problem too." She looked at him then, really, looked. Her eyes, glowing like small stars, filled with something new. Trust. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was louder than words. Then slowly, her trembling hand reached out and touched his wrist. Not hard, not forceful, just a touch. "You kind," she said softly. Daniel's throat tightened. He was not used to being called that. People in town saw him as quiet, distant, maybe strange. But this woman, this alien, looked at him as if he was something more. The kettle in the kitchen whistled, breaking the moment. Daniel stood quickly, needing to move. "I'll make you more food. You need strength." As he walked away, he felt her eyes following him. It was not the look of someone suspicious or afraid. It was the look of someone who had been alone too long, now finding a piece of safety in a stranger's home. But outside, beyond the small house, the world was not quiet. Unknown to Daniel, a black vehicle had parked down the road in the early morning hours. Two figures sat inside, watching. One of them lifted binoculars, scanning the houses carefully. When his eyes landed on Daniel's house, he smirked. "She's here." Inside, Daniel returned with warm tea and more bread. Lyra took it with grateful hands, whispering a word he barely understood but recognized. It was not English, but its meaning was clear. "Thank you." And as Daniel sat across from her, he realized something. His quiet life was gone. His house was no longer just his own. He had stepped into a story bigger than himself, and it had only just begun. The rain started that evening. Drops tapped softly against the windows as Daniel sat across from Lyra. A single lamp glowed in the living room, its yellow light washing over her pale face. She looked stronger now, less shaky, more awake. But the glow in her skin still pulsed faintly, as though her body carried its own hidden light. Daniel had many questions burning inside him, yet he didn't want to scare her, so he spoke gently. "Lyra, where are you from?" Her glowing eyes flickered. She stayed silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the rain outside. Then she whispered, her voice broken but clear enough to chill him. "Not here. Not this world." Daniel's chest tightened. He had expected something strange, but hearing it said so plainly sent a shiver down his spine. Not this world. She was admitting it openly. She was an alien. He leaned forward carefully. "Then, how did you get here?" She closed her eyes, as if pulling memories that hurt too much. When she spoke again, her words came slowly, heavy with sadness. "Skyship, many of us. Running. From war." Daniel's heart sank. A war? Out there? He tried to imagine battles between worlds, weapons beyond human knowledge. It felt too big, too impossible. Yet here she was, sitting in his living room, proof of it all. Her voice trembled as she continued. "Bad people. They hunt us. Take us. Use us." Her hand touched her chest lightly over the glowing lines. "Mark us. Not free." Daniel noticed the scars now, thin, almost hidden under the light, but real. She wasn't only a refugee. She was someone who had been hurt, captured, maybe enslaved. His stomach knotted with anger, though he didn't fully understand why. He had only just met her, but the idea of someone chasing her, using her, felt wrong on a level he couldn't explain. Lyra's eyes filled with moisture. "I ran, ship, broken, fall, alone." Daniel leaned back, letting the weight of her words sink in. She had escaped from something far beyond Earth, crashed here, and stumbled to his door. It sounded impossible, yet the pain in her voice was too real to doubt. He whispered, "And now, they're still looking for you?" Her eyes darted again to the window. She nodded once, slowly. "Yes, always. Hunters." The word hung in the air like a shadow. Hunters. Whoever they weren't far. For a while, silence filled the room, broken only by the sound of rain. Daniel's mind raced. What had he brought into his house? Was he in danger now? Yet as he looked at her fragile figure, her trembling hands, he knew the answer. It didn't matter. She needed him. Trying to lighten the moment, Daniel stood and went to the kitchen. He returned with a blanket and placed it gently over her shoulders. "You're safe here, for now." Lyra's lips curved slightly, the ghost of a smile. She whispered, "Safe. Family." Daniel paused. The word struck him. Family. He hadn't heard that word in a long time, not for himself. He lived alone, far from relatives, buried in routine. And now this stranger from the stars looked at him as if he could be more than just a man in a small house. Maybe, he said softly. If you want it to be. Her eyes shimmered at his reply. But before either of them could say more, a sudden flash of light filled the window. A car had driven slowly past the house, its headlights sweeping the room. Daniel stiffened. He walked quickly to the curtain, peeking through. The car rolled by slowly, too slowly for his comfort, before disappearing into the night. His gut told him it wasn't just any car. Someone was watching. He sat back down, forcing calm into his voice. Lyra, if someone comes, you stay quiet. Hide. Do you understand? She nodded, her eyes wide. Fear had returned to her face. To ease her, Daniel asked, Can you do anything? Abilities? Powers? Her hand lifted slightly. The air around her fingertips shimmered, glowing softly. A spoon on the table vibrated, lifted an inch, then fell. She winced, exhausted. Not strong. Not now. Too weak. She admitted. Daniel was stunned. He had guessed she was different, but seeing it made his skin prickle. She could move things without touching them. A power, both beautiful and dangerous. He exhaled slowly. It's enough, we'll figure this out. The storm outside grew louder, thunder shaking the windows. The world beyond seemed darker than ever. But inside that small house, something fragile yet powerful was forming. A connection. Daniel looked at her, this alien woman who had fallen into his life, and he realized something: he couldn't let her go. Not now. Not while she was hunted, not while she was weak. The secrets she carried were heavy. The danger around her was real. But something deeper pulled at him. She wasn't just another problem to solve. She was someone who needed him, maybe more than anyone ever had. And though he didn't fully understand why, Daniel felt ready to protect her. What he didn't know was that outside, parked under the shadows of the trees, the black car had stopped. Again, two men stepped out, their coats heavy against the rain. One raised a device that beeped faintly, flashing with light. She's close, the man muttered. Very close. Inside, Lyra shivered suddenly, as if she could feel their presence even from afar. She pulled the blanket tighter, her eyes meeting Daniel's. He didn't ask why. He already knew. Danger was on its way. The storm passed overnight. By morning, the town was calm again. Birds chirped outside. The sun lit the wet streets and everything looked normal. But inside Daniel's house, nothing felt normal anymore. Lyra sat at the small wooden table in the kitchen, wrapped in the blanket Daniel had given her. Her glowing eyes studied everything: the plates, the spoons, even the humming refrigerator. She touched each object carefully, as if the simplest things were strange wonders. Daniel placed a plate of scrambled eggs in front of her. She tilted, her head examining the yellow food with curiosity. It's called eggs, Daniel explained. You eat it with this. He handed her a fork. She picked it up awkwardly, holding it like a weapon. Daniel chuckled. No, like this. He showed her, cutting a piece with the fork and bringing it to his mouth. Lyra tried to copy him. Her first attempt ended with eggs falling to the floor. She frowned, then glanced at him nervously, as if waiting for anger. But Daniel only laughed softly. It's all right, took me years to learn table manners too. Her glowing eyes softened. She tried again, slower this time, and finally managed a bite. The taste made her eyes widen in surprise. She chewed quickly, then pointed at the plate. Good, more. Daniel smiled. Glad you like it. That small moment, simple, ordinary, felt strangely powerful. For years, Daniel had eaten breakfast alone. Now he found himself teaching an alien woman how to use a fork. And it felt right. As days passed, their bond grew. Lyra learned small things about human life. She watched television with fascination, tilting her head at every commercial. She laughed unexpectedly at cartoons, though her laugh sounded more like a soft melody than human laughter. One afternoon, Daniel gave her some of his clothes, a hoodie and sweatpants, so she could stop wearing the torn dress she had arrived in. She struggled to figure out the hoodie, pulling it over her head backward. When her face popped through the wrong side, Daniel burst out laughing. She glared playfully, then laughed too. "You. Strange clothes," she muttered. "You should see fashion in the city," Daniel replied. Slowly, her English improved. She listened carefully whenever Daniel spoke, repeating words under her breath. Sometimes she mixed them up in funny ways. Once, when Daniel sneezed, she proudly said, "Bless chicken?" He laughed so hard he nearly dropped his coffee. But behind the light moments, the shadow of danger still lingered. At night, Lyra often sat by the window, staring at the sky. Her glowing eyes seemed sad, searching the stars. Daniel asked once, "Do you miss it? Your home?" Her voice grew quiet. "Yes, but no home now. Only war. Only running." The words cut deep into him. She wasn't just a visitor. She was a refugee with no place left to go. One evening, something unusual happened. Daniel was fixing an old lamp in the living room. The wires sparked and he muttered in frustration. Lyra tilted her head, watching curiously. Then, without warning, she placed her hand near the lamp. A soft glow spread from her palm and the broken lamp flickered to life. Daniel froze. "You fixed it? With your hand?" She nodded, looking slightly proud. "Small power, heal, light, machine, little things." Daniel's eyes widened. "You can heal machines?" "Some," she said softly, "but makes me weak." She sank back into the couch, breathing heavier than before. Daniel quickly sat beside her. "Don't push yourself." Her glowing eyes met his, full of quiet determination. "I want help you. Not only you help me." The words struck him. She didn't want to be a burden. She wanted to give something back. For the first time, Daniel realized this wasn't just about protecting her. It was about learning to live with her side by side. That night, they shared their first true conversation. Lyra pointed at the bookshelf filled with Daniel's old novels. "Why, many books?" Daniel shrugged. "Because I don't like noise. Books are quiet company." She tilted her head. "But you... lonely." Her simple words hit him harder than he expected. He looked down at his hands. "Maybe I am." Lyra reached out, touching his arm gently. "Not now." Something shifted between them. The quiet of his house no longer felt empty. The silence was filled with her presence, her soft words, her glowing light. But just as warmth spread in his chest, the outside world intruded again. From the dark street came the low hum of an engine. A car slowed near his house. Daniel walked to the curtain and peeked out. The same black vehicle, parked longer this time, watching. He closed the curtain quickly, trying not to alarm her. But when he turned, he saw her face pale. She already knew. Her body trembled slightly, as if she could sense them even without seeing. "They found me," she whispered. Daniel sat beside her, gripping her hand. "Not yet. We'll be ready. They don't know who they're dealing with." Her glowing eyes searched his, fear mixing with hope. She whispered one word that carried more weight than anything she had said before. "Family." Daniel didn't answer right away. His throat tightened. But inside, he knew she was right. Somehow, in only a few days, she had become more than a stranger. She was his responsibility, his companion, his family, and he would fight to keep her safe. The following days passed in uneasy calm. Daniel tried to live as though life was normal. Fixing things around the house, making simple meals, teaching Lyra new words. But the quiet was heavy. Both of them felt it, like the pause before a storm. Lyra sensed it most. Sometimes in the middle of laughter, her glowing eyes would suddenly darken, scanning the windows, listening for sounds Daniel couldn't hear. At night, she would sit awake, shivering, as if something far away was calling her name. Daniel noticed. He wanted to reassure her, but the truth was he felt it too. The black car had returned twice more, always parking down the street, always leaving before dawn. Whoever was inside was patient, watching, waiting. One morning, Daniel decided to go into town for supplies. He didn't want to leave Lyra alone, but their food was running low. "You stay here, lock the doors. Don't open for anyone but me," he told her firmly. Lyra nodded, clutching the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "Come back fast." He gave her a small smile. "I promise." But promises were fragile things. The store was quiet. Only a few neighbors inside. Daniel grabbed bread, canned soup, and extra batteries. As he paid at the counter, he noticed something strange. A man in a black coat standing by the entrance, pretending to read a newspaper. His eyes, however, never left Daniel. Daniel's stomach tightened. He kept calm, finished quickly, and walked outside. The man lowered the paper, speaking softly into a small device hidden in his sleeve. Daniel didn't wait. He hurried to his truck, heart racing. As he started the engine, he saw the black vehicle again, parked at the far end of the street. Watching. Always watching. Back at the house, Lyra was pacing nervously when Daniel rushed in. She ran to him at once. "Danger?" Daniel nodded, setting the bags down. "They're closer, they're in town now." Her glowing eyes widened with fear. "They know. They find me soon." Daniel gripped her shoulders. "Not if we're ready." But even as he said it, he knew he was lying to himself. They weren't ready. How could they be? He was just a man with a small house. She was an alien refugee with barely enough strength to heal a lamp. And their hunters, whoever they were, had resources, technology, and time. That night the air was different. Heavy. Still. Even the crickets outside were silent. Daniel stayed awake on the couch, an old shotgun resting across his lap. He hadn't fired it in years, but tonight, just having it near gave him some comfort. Lyra sat beside him, wrapped in the blanket, her glowing skin faint in the dark. "Why? Help me," she whispered suddenly. Daniel turned to her. "Because you knocked on my door. Because you needed me. Because no one deserves to be hunted." She studied him for a long moment, then lowered her eyes. "If I stay, you die too." Daniel shook his head. "If you go, they'll catch you. And you'll die alone. That's worse." For the first time, Lyra's eyes filled with tears. They shimmered like tiny stars sliding down her cheeks. Daniel's chest ached. He wanted to tell her it would be all right, but he couldn't. He didn't believe it himself. At midnight, the sound came, a low hum. Strange, mechanical, unlike any normal car. Daniel froze. Lyra's body tensed instantly. "They come," she whispered. Headlights cut across the curtains. A vehicle stopped right outside the house. Daniel's pulse hammered. He gripped the shotgun tighter, motioning for Lyra to stay down. Through the window, he saw them. Two figures in black coats stepping out. They moved with calm precision like hunters who had tracked prey many times before. One carried a strange device glowing faintly. The other scanned the area with sharp, cold eyes. Daniel's mouth went dry. "They're here." He turned to Lyra. "Go, hide in the basement," her eyes filled with fear. "No, I stay." "Please," Daniel insisted. "If they see you, it's over." She hesitated, then obeyed, slipping quietly down the stairs, her glowing skin dimming as she vanished into the shadows. Daniel stood alone in the living room, shotgun ready. His heart pounded so loud he was sure they could hear it. The front door rattled, a knock firm and sharp. "Open up," a deep voice called. "We need to talk." Daniel clenched his jaw. He stayed silent. The knock came again, louder. "We know she's here." His stomach twisted. They weren't pretending. They knew. He steadied his breath, aimed the shotgun at the door, and whispered, under his breath, "Not tonight." In the basement, Lyra hugged herself, shaking. She could hear the voices above, the pounding of fists against the door. Her chest burned with fear, but also with guilt. "This my fault," she whispered. "He risked life. For me." She raised her glowing hand, trying to summon her power. The air shimmered faintly, but her body was still too weak. She collapsed to her knees, tears falling. Above her, the sound of breaking wood cracked through. The silence. The hunters were coming in. Daniel braced himself as the front door splintered. The first man stepped inside, his face hidden under the hood of his coat. The device in his hand beeped rapidly, glowing brighter. The second man followed, speaking in a calm, cold tone. "Give her to us, and you live." Daniel tightened his grip on the shotgun. "You'll have to kill me first." The man smirked. "That can be arranged." At that moment, Lyra, hidden below, felt a surge inside her. A strange fire, born not of fear, but of something stronger. Hope. Her eyes glowed, brighter than before, casting light across the basement walls. The hunters had found them, but this fight was far from over. The front door groaned under the hunters' force until it finally cracked wide open. Splinters of wood scattered across the floor. Daniel stood in the dim light of his living room, the shotgun pressed tightly against his shoulder, his hands trembling but steady enough to fire if needed. Two men stepped inside. Both wore long black coats that glistened in the rain. Their faces were cold, their eyes sharp like knives. One carried the strange glowing device, its light pulsing faster as if it could smell Lyra's presence. "She's here," the taller man said. His voice was calm, certain. "Give her to us and this ends clean." Daniel's jaw tightened. He forced his voice to stay firm. "She's not going anywhere with you." The shorter man smirked. "You think you can protect her? Do you even know what she is?" Daniel's finger hovered near the trigger. "I know enough. She's not your property." The taller man stepped forward. "You don't understand. That creature is dangerous. She's not one of you. She doesn't belong here." Daniel's heart pounded. For a brief second, doubt flickered inside him. Was she truly dangerous? Could she hurt him one day? But then he remembered her trembling hands, her laughter at cartoons, the way she whispered, "Family." He steadied his breath. She belongs where she feels safe. And right now, that's with me. The taller man's eyes hardened. Wrong choice. In the basement, Lyra pressed herself against the wall, listening. Her glowing eyes were wet with tears. She could feel the hunters' voices crawling through the air like poison. Her body shook. She wanted to run upstairs, to fight beside Daniel, but her strength was still fragile. She whispered to herself, "Please, Daniel, live." Her hand glowed faintly, energy flickering weakly between her fingers. She tried to summon more, but pain shot through her chest. Still, she did not stop. She focused harder, whispering words in her own language. Above, the device in the hunter's hand beeped violently. He frowned. "She's below, in the basement." Daniel's blood ran cold. The taller man smirked. "Step aside." Daniel lifted the shotgun higher. "Over my dead body." The shorter man's smile grew cruel. "That can be arranged." The room exploded into chaos. The shorter man lunged forward. Daniel fired. The blast echoed like thunder, wood and smoke filling the air. The man stumbled, back coat torn, but instead of falling, he laughed. A faint metallic glint shimmered under his torn clothes. "Armor. Old gun won't save you," he sneered. The taller man swung his arm. Daniel was thrown against the wall as if hit by invisible force. The shotgun clattered to the floor. Pain shot through his ribs, but he forced himself back up. He wasn't giving up. In the basement, Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. She felt Daniel's pain like her own. Her heart raced. She could no longer stay hidden. With a surge of will, she climbed the stairs, light spilling from her body like fire. The hunters froze as the basement door burst open. Lyra stepped into the living room, her glowing skin illuminating the dark. Her hair shimmered like strands of silver light, her eyes blazing like twin stars. "Stay away," she hissed. Her voice echoed unnaturally, shaking the air. For the first time, the hunters hesitated. Daniel staggered to his feet beside her. "Lyra, don't," but she shook her head. "No more running. No more hiding." The taller man raised his device. It pulsed, sending a wave of energy toward her. Lyra flinched, nearly collapsing, but Daniel caught her before she fell. Rage surged through him. "You're not taking her," he roared. With raw desperation, he grabbed the shotgun again and swung it like a club, striking the shorter man across the head. The man stumbled, dazed for a second. Daniel didn't stop. He attacked again and again, fighting not with skill, but with sheer will. The taller hunter tried to advance, but Lyra raised her glowing hand. This time, her power answered fully. A burst of light erupted from her palm, slamming into the hunter's chest and throwing him across the room. The walls shook as he crashed against them. Her knees buckled, but Daniel held her tightly. Together, they stood against their enemies. The hunters regrouped quickly, glaring at the pair. The taller one's voice was venom. "You're making a mistake. Protecting her means your death." Daniel wiped blood from his lip, his arm wrapped protectively around Lyra. His voice was raw but unshaken. "She's not a mistake. She's family." Lyra's eyes widened at his words. Her glow softened, not from weakness but from emotion. Her lips trembled, whispering, "Family." The word gave her strength. She lifted her hands again, light swirling brighter than ever. Daniel gritted his teeth, ready to fight to his last breath. The hunter stared for a long moment, then exchanged glances. One muttered, "Too much attention tonight. We'll return." With cold glares, they stepped back into the stormy night, disappearing into the black vehicle. Within seconds, the engine roared and faded into the distance. Silence filled the house. Daniel's chest heaved with exhaustion. He dropped the shotgun, falling to his knees. Beside him, Lyra sank to the floor, her glowing light dimming slowly. For a moment, they just breathed. Alive. Together. Finally, Daniel whispered, "They'll come back." Lyra nodded weakly. "Yes, but I'm not alone now." Daniel placed a hand on hers, squeezing gently. "No, you'll never be alone again." And though danger still waited out there in the dark, something stronger burned between them. A choice had been made. Daniel had chosen her, not as a guest, not as a burden, but as family. And nothing, human or alien, would take that away. The night after the hunters left was the longest night Daniel had ever lived through. The broken front door leaned against the wall like a silent reminder of what had just happened. Shattered wood covered the floor. The smell of gunpowder still clung to the air, and Daniel's body ached from bruises. Yet none of it mattered, because Lyra was alive. She lay on the couch under a blanket, her glowing light faint but steady. Her breathing had slowed, her face calm now that the danger had passed. Daniel sat nearby, his hand resting close to hers, watching every rise and fall of her chest as though each breath was a victory. For hours, he stayed awake. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined headlights flashing again outside, imagined footsteps returning. But the night passed quietly. By morning, sunlight spilled into the house, painting everything gold. For the first time in days, Daniel allowed himself to breathe. Lyra stirred slowly, her eyes fluttering open. They glowed softer now, not sharp like fire, but warm like morning stars. She looked at him and whispered, "Still here." Daniel managed a tired smile. "I told you, I'm not leaving." She blinked, her lips curving faintly. "You fight. For me." "I'd do it again," Daniel said simply. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was gentle, full of unspoken truth. Then, with a shaky hand, Lyra touched his arm. Her voice trembled, but her words were steady. "Family." Daniel's throat tightened. He nodded. "Yes, family." The next few days became a new rhythm. Daniel fixed the door as best he could, adding extra locks. He boarded up the windows with wooden planks, not caring what the neighbors might think. Safety mattered more than appearances. Lyra helped however she could. Though her body was weak, she insisted on small tasks. She folded laundry, swept floors, even tried cooking once, burning toast so badly the smoke alarm screamed. Daniel laughed. For the first time in weeks, the sound surprising even himself. At night, they talked more. Lyra's English improved quickly. She told him about her world, about the forests that glowed at night, about rivers that sang with energy, about stars, brighter than any seen from Earth. But when she spoke of the war, her voice always faltered. She would fall silent, staring at the floor, her glowing eyes dimming with sadness. Daniel never pushed her. He knew some scars weren't ready to be shared. Instead, he told her about his own life, about the family he had lost years ago, about the loneliness that had followed him since. And for the first time, he admitted something he had never said out loud. "I thought I'd live the rest of my life alone," he whispered one night. "But then you came to my door." Her glowing eyes softened. "You're not alone now." But peace was fragile. One evening, Daniel walked outside to check the mailbox. The street looked quiet, but on the ground near the fence he noticed something strange. A small black device half buried in the dirt. When he picked it up, the screen blinked red. A tracker. His stomach dropped. He rushed inside, slamming the door. They were here. Lyra's face paled. "Hunters?" Daniel showed her the device. "They're watching, even now." Fear flickered in her glowing eyes, but then something else replaced it. Determination. "We can't stay." Daniel nodded slowly. He knew she was right. His house, once a place of safety, was no longer safe. The hunters would return, and next time, they wouldn't leave without her. That night, they packed what little they could carry: food, clothes, a few tools. Daniel loaded them into his old truck. Before leaving, he paused at the doorway. This had been his home for years. Every memory he had left lived inside these walls. But now, looking back, he realized something. The house had never been home. Not really. Home wasn't walls or doors. Home was the person waiting beside him. Lyra stood at the truck, wrapped in her blanket, her glowing eyes watching him with quiet trust. For a moment she looked fragile again, like the night she first collapsed at his door, but beneath her fear was strength. Daniel joined her, sliding into the driver's seat. The engine rumbled to life. The road stretched ahead, empty and uncertain. "Where we go?" Lyra asked softly. Daniel glanced at her, then back at the road. "Somewhere they won't find us. Somewhere we can start new." She nodded, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "Together." "Together," Daniel agreed. The truck rolled through. The night, leaving behind the small town, the broken house, the shadow of hunters. Stars stretched across the sky, bright and endless. Lyra leaned her head against the window, staring at them with quiet longing. Daniel glanced at her, seeing the glow of her reflection in the glass. For the first time, he didn't see her as alien. He saw her as family. But as the truck disappeared, down the dark highway, another vehicle sat waiting on a distant hill. The same black car. Inside, 2 hunters watched, their eyes cold and unblinking. "She's running again," one muttered. The other smirked. "Then we'll follow. No matter where she goes." The car's headlights flicked on, shining like twin eyes in the dark. Slowly, silently, they drove after the truck, keeping distance but never losing sight. Inside the truck, Lyra closed her eyes, whispering softly, "Thank you, Daniel." He squeezed the steering wheel tighter, his jaw set. "You're safe with me always." And though he didn't say it aloud, Daniel knew the truth. Their journey had only begun, a new beginning, for both of them.